The prison chamber?
Well, I was in the prison camp for 3 years. I went in when I was 11, I got out when I was 14.
Okay, I got a question over here. I actually have 2 questions.
Okay.
One, was your father aware that that his entire family was in?
He assumed that us in the 3rd year was able to notify my grandmother in Pensacola, Florida, that we were in the prison camp and that all of us were alive. And so from that time on, she immediately wrote him a letter and sent it through. She used to talk to Roosevelt. Can you believe this, my grandmother? She used to call Roosevelt. She was a cripple, and he was a cripple. And so they had empathy there. And she used to call him up, and he would answer and talk to her on the telephone. And they wrote letters back and forth. Those letters are missing, gone somewhere.
I have another question.
Yeah.
During the day, other than your work detail, you talked about y'all would kind of walk around. Were you just free to roam around the camp?
Roam until curfew. Yeah, you could roam around anywhere in the camp until curfew. And at curfew, you had to be in the building and up to your room where they would count you. In other words, you had to go through roll call, just like these people have to go through. Hope sometimes. Okay.
What would happen if you weren't in there by curfew?
If I what?
If you weren't in there by curfew?
Well, I mean, they came after you and you wished that you had been, because they'll wrap you around. I used to sneak out. What?
What was the worst trouble you ever got into?
Were physical contact? Yeah. All right. During the air raids, the Japanese anti-aircraft would be going off over Spain, and shrapnel would come down. Well, when the air raids were on, everybody was supposed to be in their building, but there were some of us that would sneak out and go out and pick up the, that was cool, man, to have some shrapnel that you could show somebody, So we'd sneak out and we'd be picking up this shrapnel, and I got caught one day, a bunch of us got caught, by Colonel Abigo, who did not speak English, and he was our commandant in the camp. And so he hollered something at me in Japanese. I didn't know what to answer him. I'm standing there like this, and he hits me in the chest with his samurai sword still in the scabbard. But he hits me like this, and a big knot rose up on there, and I mean, it hurt. And he hollered something else at me, and I didn't know what the heck to say to him. Bang, he hit me again, and he hit me like 3 or 4 times. And then another guy that was with us, who was older and bigger than I was, caught his eye, and thank the good Lord, he took his attention over to him and smacked him around the head with that scabbard and cut his head and, scarred him up a little bit. But that's the worst thing that I ever had happen to me. What?
When was your curfew over?
The curfew? Oh, when they woke you up in the morning with good morning, you'd dance the whole night through. That's when the curfew was over.
What time did the curfew start?
Well, they had it set to where you had to be in at dark, okay? Now, there were times when they waived that, and they would say, curfew not until 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock or something like that. Who knows why? But they would waive that. Now, you have to... No. But the 9 o'clock figure, see that the sun sets in the far east like that along the equator. Your daylight goes on till 9 o'clock or so. So it's light outside.
But still, my theory makes sense.
Pardon me? When they get bombed? Well, they weren't really bombed at night. What?
Where was your mother?
My mother was in another room with my 2 sisters. In the main building, it would be like this school, because it was a school. It was a university. In a room this size, they would have probably 30 or 40 people. Yeah, and you had 27 inches width. That was where your area was. So you had to build something made out of wood or bamboo or whatever to sleep on. Within that 27 inches wide by I think it was 7 feet long. So you can imagine you're breathing everybody else's air when you're in a room like this. Now, most of the rooms had windows, which was great in the tropics. That somehow the Japanese would put together the fact that he, Paul Gunn, had a family in the prison camp and that they would do something bad to us. We, on the other hand, were scared to death that he was going to do something famous and end up with the Japanese finding out that, wait a minute, you told us he was dead and he's alive and you're in trouble in the camp. So we were living in fear and he was living in fear. So all through the war, there was a quietus put on any publicity about Pappy Gunn. That nobody could write anything about him. They couldn't put his name in the newspaper or anything like that. So all through the war, he was very famous among his own people and a big hero. But nobody outside the Air Force knew about it. And the Navy. The Navy wanted him back in 1943. They, after the Battle of the Bismarck Sea, which was a big battle that his airplanes really tore up the Japanese and created a very profitable thing for our services. The Navy suddenly decided that, whoa, wait a minute, that guy's a Navy reserve and we want him back. So there was a battle going on between the Army Air Corps and the Navy about him, and it went all the way up to the Inspector General's office. And they decided that they would leave it up to him which service he would want to be in. Well, his attitude was he was flying for MacArthur. MacArthur was going back to the Philippines. That's where his family was. So he said, I'm staying with the Army Air Corps.
With his dad, which is on the other side of this poster board. And I'm going to cut it short because I just wanted to tell you, these sheets right here, if you're interested, have his email and his website that you can go to and see more information and these pictures. Or if you're interested in a book, or your parents are interested in a book, that's fine too. But get one of these if you're interested and come up. I want y'all to look at his medals, his dad's medals, and look at the prison camp, and look at all that stuff before you have to. Yeah.